Hey everyone, it's Teddy, aka James Kazawa on MTGO, here to talk about some spoilers from Bloomburrow and see if there's anything worth checking out for Grixis Control. Now, it's very rare that Grixis Control gets new tech. I'm pretty used to not getting anything new for the deck, no matter what sets come out. I feel like it's been a really long time since we got new tech, outside of sets like Modern Horizons, where they kind of just update the basic vocabulary of a lot of decks because a lot of the cards are really pushed. But yeah, when standard sets come around, there's not always so much that we can look forward to. But let's check this out. So the first card I picked is the infamous Cruelclaw. It's one black and a red for a 3/3 with Menace. So it's already kind of, not passing the stats test. You kind of need to have more than 3 toughness to hang. But anyways, when it deals combat damage to a player, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card by discarding a card rather than paying its mana cost. So this is some kind of a card advantage engine, but it's really more of a mana engine, and it's also more of a mana engine and more of a getting rid of the wrong half of the deck problem. You can exchange one of the cards in your hand for something that you flip off. Cruelclaw. Menace is nice. 3 power with Menace. We all know how busted that is. Grief is a very powerful creature, and these stats are a little bit better than Grief. I think the card probably would have been a little too oppressive for standard if you didn't have to discard a card just whenever it hit with this evasion. I think that would go a ways to make it more playable, but I don't think Grixis Control is really looking for something quite like this. If it had haste, that'd also be really interesting. But as it stands, I think we could probably do better with Fable the Mirror Breaker if you're looking for something in this slot, the mana acceleration and the card selection all in one. But I mean, it'd still be fun. There's always that Kolaghan's command synergy that I always love to talk about. All right, let's keep going here. Darkstar Augur, 2 and a black for a 2/3 with flying. That's relevant. And it also has Offspring for 1 black. And Offspring is a new ability, and it's very powerful. When you cast this spell, you can pay an additional black. And if you do, you get a copy of this card, except it's a 1/1. That is like a nice built-in 2-for-1 situation. The 1/1 part is maybe a little hard to rely on in a world full of Orcish Bowmasters, but let's look at what this card does. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with the card Dark Confidant. It's a card I used to play a lot in Modern Jund, and that is verbatim Dark Confidant. And the stats are a lot better on this card. It costs an additional mana compared to Dark Confidant, but there's no doubt this could be a real card advantage machine, especially if you offspring it and are flipping 2 cards per upkeep. The problem with this for Grixis Control, though, is that we're often scraping by on thin margins, and we don't often have a lot of life to spare. If y'all remember the videos I did playing the One Ring, a lot of those lines got pretty dicey and pretty close to falling apart there. So there are a lot of problems with having cards that cost you a lot of life in Grixis Control. That being said, we have ways to supplant it with like Cling to Dust and stuff like that. And also, card advantage that does not have the keyword draw a card is always very important for hate pieces like Orcish Bowmasters and Narset. There's a lot to like about this card for sure, and the Offspring ability makes it pretty powerful. Just that 2-for-1 in a can is nice. And as always, Kolaghan's command synergy. Bring it back with Kolaghan's command. But yeah, I think it might be a little hard on our life total. Even though our curve has dramatically dropped recently, I don't think we play fast enough to really leverage this. If it had a lifelink, that would be interesting. Alright, let's keep going here. Rottenmouth Viper, 5 and a black. That's a Gurmag Angler cost for a 6/6, a little bigger than Gurmag Angler. As additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of non-land permanents. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each permanent sacrificed this way. So we're not likely to have a whole lot of permanents to sacrifice to this, but it definitely has quite a powerful Staxy effect. When it enters or attacks, you put a blight counter on it. Then for each blight counter on it, each opponent loses 4 life unless they sacrifice an online permanent or discard a card. So this card will really run people out of resources quite quickly if unanswered. This is one I want to look out for. Fortunately for Legacy, it's pretty weak to Force of Will. You can get a pretty big blowout as long as they're not running Cavernous Souls, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone tried out a Cavernous Souls, Rottenmouth Viper affinity style deck, just ramping one of these out and really putting your opponent under some real tough constraints there. So look out for that one. Feed the Cycle. 1 and a black, it's an instant. As an additional cost to cast the spell, forage or pay black. To forage, exile 3 cards from your graveyard or sacrifice a food. We're not likely to have many food tokens lying around, so exiling 3 cards from your graveyard seems more likely. This is unconditional destroy target creature or planeswalker. So a lot of these cards have been coming out recently, and they've been upping the power level here and there, and this one seems like one of the better ones. So either we're exiling 3 cards from our graveyard, which, as we know, as we've seen with Psychic Frog, is very easy for us to do, or paying an additional black. So sometimes you'll end up paying 3 for this unconditional removal spell. It hits creatures or planeswalkers. I think this is nearly a strict upgrade to Eliminate, since Eliminate only hits 3 CMC or lower. At the same time, I don't know if we need more 2 mana 1-for-1 removal. It's going to be hard to top Shieldred's Edict. There's so many modes on that card that, even though it is an Edict effect, it feels almost targeted, especially for a format with Legacy where people aren't going to really take time to just like fill out their board and have a bunch of expendable creatures around. The Edict is pretty sweet. But I could see a world in which this becomes a relevant card if we need more targeted removal. Alright, this was my favorite one, I think. Ruthless Negotiation. It's 1 black, target opponent exiles a card from their hand. If this card was cast from a graveyard, you draw a card. So that's a sweet little 1 mana 2-for-1 if you meet the conditions. It has a built-in way to cast it from your graveyard. It has flashback for 4 and a black. With Snapcaster Mage, this is pretty sweet. It kind of works off the old versions of Grixis Control where you're just like grinding your opponent down to nothing, playing Baleful Strix, that kind of gameplay. But we're not even playing like Hymn to Turok anymore or stuff like that. So I don't know if this really has a place in the deck, but I think it'd be fun to try. Just Raven's Crime is something similar to this, and probably a little more endlessly renewable. However, Raven's Crime is always just going to be 1-for-1, whereas Negotiation could pretty consistently be a 2-for-1. And also it's relevant that the opponent exiles a card from their hand, not discard. So you don't have to worry about turning on any kind of reanimation lines or anything like that. So turn 1, you cast this. Turn 2, I don't know, you cast Baleful Strix or Hymn to Turok, something Blast from the Past. Then turn 3, you can snap Negotiation. If opponent was making land drops, you're going to have them pretty close to depleted at this point. That's not really what the deck seeks to do anymore, but I still think it would be fun to just have one hanging around, try it out. Could be fun. The art's really cool. I think that's the last one I picked out. Yeah, not a whole lot going for Grixis Control this time. I think, was there sorry, this formatting's probably pretty bad just because I'm not quite sure where my webcam is ending up right now. But yeah, there were a lot of like cards that were blue-black, and there was even a Rat Warlock that has a activation cost of blue, black, and red. I think it was Whirl. Here we go. Wick the World Mind. So yeah, there's an activation cost that's blue, black, red. I think we're the best deck in the format to support anything costed blue, black, red. And we can do it on basics pretty easily even. But the card itself, aside from being a 4-drop that only has 2 power, it cares about other rats. And we haven't played rats ever, I don't think. I know a long time ago Reanimator was playing Pack Rat, but I doubt that's still a thing that happens. So unfortunately, we are kind of unable to leverage Wick. I wouldn't say the set is underpowered by any stretch. I think Offspring is a really powerful ability that's kind of innocuous, but just those built-in 2-for-1s, and the cost for Offspring is always really low, it seems. Um, but as usual, it's kind of hard to find cards for Grixis Control, and that's okay. We know we're a deck on the fringes of the meta here. As always, it's kind of hard to evaluate exactly what's going to be strong and what's going to pop off after this before the set comes out. Magic is a game of such high variance that sometimes you can't really envision every single scenario or how a card reacts to another scenario, kind of like the butterfly effect of a game of Magic, until you see it in action and really try these cards out for real. So I'm excited to see what happens. I do really love the art in this set. There's something about it that's very humorous, but also in keeping with the stakes of Magic. There's also new art for Narset, Parter Veils, but I do really like the Fumadori piece that I've been running for a long time. Whoa, that's a lot of comments. Dirty J has opinions about this set. Yeah, art like this is so hilarious to me. The severity of which they're approaching this task makes for a pretty funny picture since it's some anthropomorphic animals. Anyways, I think that's about it. Just wanted to highlight those handful of cards. Nothing too crazy for Grixis Control. I think I already said that. Yeah, stay tuned to the channel. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all in the next one.